This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Erev Shabbos Rabbi, as we prepare for Parshas Seitzei, we know the end of Parshas Seitzei speaks about Amalek. And it struck me, based on the idea that the Parshas that we learn at a time of the year is connected to the time of the year. Why do we specifically learn about Amalek sort of at the end of the year in Chodesh Elul as the year is coming to an end? And then it hit me that there are two times a year we learn about Amalek, and the other time is Parshas Zachar, which is in Chodesh Adar. So why do we learn in Elul and Adar? And I just have this Maramakim on the sheet, the Sefer Dvar Chaim. He's bothered, why do we learn about Amalek in Adar and in Elul? But then it struck me, why do we learn about Amalek at the end of the year? Right? We know the year has two extremities. Elul is the before Rosh Hashanah, and Adar is before Nisan. Why is it that the two times a year that we learn about Amalek, both times are at the very end of the year? Also, the many Mefarshim point out, and Balei HaTosfos points out, the Moshe of Zakenim, one of the Balei HaTosfos, that we know that the Parsha that follows Amalek is Parshas Kisavai. How does Parshas Kisavai open? What does it talk about? The mitzvah of Bikurim. So what we could ask is, Lama Nismacha Parshas Amalek le Parshas Bikurim. What is the connection between Amalek and Bikurim? Now the simple connection is that there are three mitzvahs Klal Yisrael are commanded as they enter Eretz Yisrael. One is to destroy Amalek, one is to make a melech, and one is to build the Beis HaMikdash. Which is we once had a shiur. Why was it important? We find in the story of the Megillah that Mordechai minted coins. Mordechai minted coins. Why did Mordechai mint coins? Because in order to destroy Amalek, you need to be a melech. So as part of imposing his melucha, he minted coins. So therefore, the Torah says, destroy Amalek when? V'haya kisavayu el ha'aretz. But what's the connection between Amalek and Bikurim? Another interesting thing I saw in the Imrei Noyam, because if we're going to say that two times a year we learn about Amalek, one in Elul, and when we learn about it in Elul, it's juxtaposed to Bikurim. The truth is, when we learn about it in Adar, it's also juxtaposed to Bikurim. Because when we're going to learn about it in Adar, it's what Parsha do we usually read around Parsha Zachar time? Mishpatim. And Mishpatim is the first time we have the mitzvah of Bikurim. Where there it also says, Reishis Bikurei Ad Mascha, Savi Beis Hashem Leikecha. So interesting how both times we learn about Amalek, juxtaposed to that is Mikra Bikurim, in Kisavai and in Mishpatim. That's also a very interesting phenomenon. And what is suggested, and one thing we should realize off the bat, is there's something that Amalek and Bikurim both have in common. They're both the Reishis. What does that mean? In Parshas Kisavai, we know what is the mitzvah of Bikurim. The Torah says, "V'lakachta me Reishis kol peri adama," and you will take from the Reishis. Now, I sort of gave it away, but another question you could ask is, it says by Amalek, "Vayizanev b'cha kol hanechesholim acharecha." Vayizanev, they cut off the tails. Rashi says the blow of the tail. What does that mean? Rashi says they would cut off the arla. They cut off the milah, they cut off their milah, and they threw the arla upward. That's strange. That's a weird thing to do. Why in the world are the Amalek cutting off their milah and throwing it upward? Why do they? What is their why are they antagonistic toward the milah, and why are they throwing it upward? Okay, so what we're getting at is,
why are they doing it all together?
Yeah. Well, so we're getting at is that one thing that Bikurim and Amalek have in common is they're both called Reishis. Parshas Kisavai v'lakachta me Reishis kol pri adama. Right? The Mishnah says in Bikurim, Hayar l'soich sadeu v'roya gefen shebichra te'ena shebichra rimoin shebikar. By the way, why those three fruits? So you say, Bikurim is like a tikkun for the Chet HaMeraglim, and those were the three fruits that the Meraglim used to demonstrate that Eretz Yisrael is not an Eretz Tova. So that's why the Mishnah specifically mentions those three fruits. But Bikurim is the Reishis. And when it comes to Amalek, Vayaras Amalek, when Bilam saw Amalek, Vayisa Mishal Vayomer, Reishis Goyim Amalek. Amalek is the first of all the nations. But V'acharisoi, but his end, Adei Oived, will be destroyed. You hear this? Reishis Goyim Amalek. The first of all nations is Amalek. But his end, Adei Oived.
First in what? First to start up?
So first of all, yeah, he's the first to start up. What exactly does this mean that Amalek is the Reishis? But the terminology that the Torah uses to describe Amalek is he's called Reishis. By the way, in the Moshav Zakenim, he, which is one of the Balei HaTosfos, it's not an old age home. In the Sefer Moshav Zakenim, let me just share with you, Chav Dalet Chav. What does it mean, Reishis Goyim Amalek? Rashi says, "Hu kadam es kulam lihilacham be Yisrael v'kach tegam okas v'achris alahav b'yadam." In other words, they were the first to start up. But the word used is Reishis Goyim. So the Moshav Zakenim says, "Loi malach." You know why the Bikurim is juxtaposed to Amalek to teach you? Amalek is called Reishis. Reishis Goyim Amalek. V'habikurim nikram Reishis. Shenam mar v'lakachtem Reishis. And let the Reishis of Bikurim come and destroy the Reishis of Amalek. Why? Because Amalek comes and tries to grab Bnei Yisrael and he throws the Milah, Klape Shamayim, and he says, take it back. Therefore, Shmuel took Agag and he split him in half, and Chazal say he was Mesares Agag. Why? It's Midah Keneged Midah, because Amalek took the Milah and threw it up. So that's what we did to him. But by the way, Chassam Sofer also says the shaychus between Amalek and Bikurim is he is called Reishis Goyim, and Bikurim is also the Reishis. By the way, the way I came to the Shiur is many years ago. I don't know, it must have been 7 years ago. So we went to Niagara Falls, and they have this minyan there. And I always like at these minyanim, they sometimes have like strange svarim that you'll never see anywhere else. Not strange, but like, you never know what kind of svarim end up in these places. So I remember I saw this vart, that the juxtaposition of Amalek and Bikurim is they're both Reishis. I saw in the Sefer Tiferes Yerucham of one of the late Radzina Rebbes. He said, I'm never going to see the Sefer again. So I wrote it down, and I filed away on Parshas Seitzei, the connection. And last night I was looking, Tiferes Yerucham, how do I get at Tiferes Yerucham? It's not on any of the programs. So anyway, I said, so I'm going to have to find someone else who said it. So I found Tosfos says it, and the Chassam Sofer also says it. But by the way, we're going to come to, by the way, an interesting Nakuda. In one of the Rishonim, I think he's buried in Morocco, his name is Rabbi Victor Hatzarfasi, he says, Bikurim is Reishis, Amalek is Reishis. By Amalek, it's V'acharisoi Adei Oived. So by Bikurim we say Arami Oived Ovid. That's also another connection. That Amalek is Acharisoi Adei Oived, and by Bikurim we say Arami Oived. Very interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you some secrets over here. What does it mean, Reishis Goyim Amalek? The Heilige Chassam Sofer writes, we'll skip to number 12, then we'll come back. Shamati, I heard. Ve'eni yodea b'shem mi, I don't know who. I would like to tell you it over b'shem Amroi, but I don't remember who it was. Lefaresh hakavana. What does it mean, Reishis Goyim Amalek v'achrisei adei oived? Rak ate kasher shamati v'yishma chacham. I'm just going to say what I heard, and, you'll listen. Who were what is the foundation of Klal Yisrael?
Torah.
Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu's ancestry, which is Levi, Kehas, Amram, Moshe. You hear this? Levi, Kehas, Amram, Moshe. Rashi Tevos, Amalek. Levi, Kehas, Amram, Moshe. Rashi Tevos, Amalek. V'zehu Reishis Goyim Amalek. Ki Levi ubanav heim Reishis shel hashvatim. The Shvatim are called Goyim. Right? Yaakov Avinu said, Goyim. Rashi and Bereshis Lamed Hey Yud Aleph, which you'll see quickly. Rashi, Ani kel shakai, pray goyu kahal goyim yamimaka. But v'acharisai, that's Reishis goyim, the beginning of the goyim, meaning us, our beginning is Amalek. But v'acharisai, our end, adei oived. Because Soifei Tevois of Levi, Kahas, Amram, Moshe is Misa. So Reishis Goyim, the beginning is Amram, Kahas, Levi, Moshe. But V'acharisa, the Soifei Tevois is Misa. L'hoirois al acharisa shal Amalek, that it's Adei Adei Oived. Okay. Then it says Chasam Sofer Kach Shamati Stam. V'hinei his boinim b'Soifei Tevois shel Reishis Goyim Amalek v'Arid Adei Oved. If you look at the Soifei Tevois of Reishis Goyim Amalek v'Achrisa Adei Oved, v'gam b'zeh hamaskil be'es hazois yidaim. There's a secret remez to that as well. V'nira ma'yeh b'Soifei. Basically, there's some secret in the final words of Reishis Goyim Amalek v'Achrisa Adei Oved. So interesting, if you look in this Chasam Sofer, he quotes it over b'shem who? Nobody. I heard it, and I don't know who it's from. In the Drashas Chasam Sofer, he writes, he says, I already told you I was Mekabel from my Rabbeim. Reishis Goyim Amalek. Then Amalek is Merumaz in the Reishis of Amram Moshe Levi Kahas. And I am Moisef, that V'acharisa Adei Oved is Soifei Tevois of Amram Levi Kahas Moshe is Misa, to be Merames on Amalek and his Aveda. Okay. So some Svarim actually point out that that's somewhat of a stira, because in Chasam Sofer al Torah it sounds like the whole thing he heard, and in the Drashos Chasam Sofer it sounds like he heard the first thing, and the end he didn't hear. By the way, there's another secret over here in the word Amalek. Because we say Reishis Goyim is Amalek. Amalek takes the first letters of our names, but which two bad guys came together to destroy Klal Yisrael in the Chumash? Two bad guys who joined forces to try to destroy Klal Yisrael. Balak and Bilam. Well, the Zohar HaKadosh is Megala. If you take the final letters of Balak, you get Amalek. Bil, Ayin Mem, Ba-Lak, Lamed Kuf. And what do you get with, so what do you do with the Bays? Lamed, Bays. That's Bavel. That's Golas Bavel. But anyway, the Zohar HaKadosh says, look at number 15. Amalek manhu la'ela, da chazinan de bilam balak mitaman, have a nishmas in delhain. Basically, Amalek is the soul of Bilam and Balak. Uveginda have a son in Israel. Therefore, they hated Jewish people. Yasser mikol uma v'lishan. Uveginda, because of this, Amalek Rashim b'shimhain. Amalek is alluded to in their names. Ayin Mem from Bilam, Lamed Kuf from Balak. V'dacher v'nukva inan Amalekim. They are the male and female of Amalek. Okay. So the Sefer Shvilei Pinchas, or Pinchas Friedman, points out, according to the Zaya, we understand that before Amalek came to battle Klal Yisrael and Refidim, there's a medrash that said he went to ask the advice of Bilam. It says, Vayavay Amalek, Vayilachem Esav Refidim, Mehechan ba Amalek, where did Amalek come from? Amar of Kursvadai, B'Shem Rabbi Yachna, Shabba me Eitzel Bilam Harasha. He came from Bilam. Shabba lital Eitzel men of Amalek, Yaidani Shabal Eitzata. Amalek said, I know you know how to give advice. V'gam Bal Machshav is Rois. I know you know how to give bad advice. And I know your bad advice is always good advice for me. So what do you advise me? And Bilam says, go fight them. So anyway, why is Amalek specifically getting advice from Bilam? So the Pinchas Friedman points out that since the source of Bilam is from the Klip of Amalek, so therefore Amalek took advice with him what to do with Klal Yisrael. Okay, but be it as it may, these are some of the secrets of Reishis Goyim Amalek. Amalek is against the Reishis of our people, namely Amram, Moshe, Levi, Kahas. His end is destruction. That's Misa, is the Soifei Tevois of Levi, Kahas, Amram, Moshe. And the Achrisai Another kavanah could be the last letters of Bilam and Balak is really the destruction and the downfall of Amalek. But be it as it may, I think what we see from here is Amalek is called Reishis, and they are out to therefore destroy our Reishis. I saw in the Sefer Smichas Chachamim, Rav Naftali Katz, one of the great Mekubalim, that the reason why Amalek specifically takes the Mila and casts it upward is Mila is the Reishis, the first mitzvah that a Yid is Mekayim. The first mitzvah that is performed to a Yid is Mila, and Amalek is the sort of the antagonist of Reishis, is the antagonist of the beginnings, and therefore he is against specifically the Bris Mila. The Rav Naftali Katz, by the way, has a sefer called Smichas Chachamim. One of the purposes of the sefer is to explain the hemshech of all the mesechtas and shas. So he wants to know which mesechta precedes Bikurim. Arla, Bikurim. Why? Because Bikurim is counteracting who? Amalek. Amalek represents what? Arla. So that's why you have Arla, and then you have Bikurim. That's the hemshech of the Masechtas of Arla and Bikurim. He says over here, number 10, O yesh says tamacher. Lahad tani Bikurim acher Arla lasmichos. Tehuva b'mefarshim, it's brought in the mefarshim. Hatam lavas habikurim, the reason for bringing the bikurim levatel koicha shel Amalek. Shekol kavanasai haya levatel hakdusha Yisrael. Amalek's intention was to be mevatel sanctity from the Jewish people. Ulevatel binyan beis hamikdash. Amalek wants to stop the building of the Beis Hamikdash koyach haTorah Yisrael, and he wants to subdue them under the klipos. Amalek is the first klipa. He's called Reishis Goyim. Therefore, as soon as we come into Eretz Yisrael, we have to make a king. Right? Why is the first thing we do? We make a king. The king is the Reishis. Opposite of Amalek. He wants to put us under the klipa to be the Zanav. So we're the Rosh. Also, the job of the king is to mechazek Klal Yisrael in Torah, like he holds on to the Sefer Torah. Also, we build the Beis Hamikdash, which is against Amalek, and then to destroy Amalek. So this is why the mitzvah of Arla the Arla represents Amalek. The Ilan and the Arlas Ha'adam is a similar concept. The Arla of the tree and the Arla of a person is a similar concept. Therefore, Amalek takes their Mila and they cast it upward. Because the Mila is Reishis, Kedushas, Yisrael. Reishis, HaKlipos. And they have no chelek in Kedusha. They only have a chelek in the Arla. Therefore, we take the Bikurim, which is Reishis, and we bring it to the Beis HaBechira, which is Keneged Amalek. Amalek is Keneged the Beis HaMikdash, and we're mitzaref the two together. Therefore, by Mikra Bikurim, we say the lashon of Hine Hevesis Reishis Pri Adama. With this Reishis of Kedusha, to be mevatel the Reishis of Amalek. Therefore, that's the connection between the Parsha of Mikra Bikurim and the Parsha of Amalek. And that's why it's Dafka in Eretz Yisrael, but not in Chutz La'aretz. Okay. So I'll just share with you a beautiful idea, and then we'll wrap it up. We know in Parshas B'Shalach, when does Amalek come? What precipitated Amalek? So one thing is Vayisu Merafidim. One is they Vayisu Merafidim. They weakened, they slackened in Torah. Vayavay Amalek Vayilachim Yisrael Berfidim. And Barashi says specifically in B'Shalach Perach Yud Zayin Pasuk Ches, Vayivay Amalek Vayilachim Yisrael Berfidim. Rashi says, Samach Parsha Zu L'Mikrazeh Loimar Tomer Ani Beinechem. I'm always among you. Umezumin L'chol Tzarchechem. V'yatem Oimrim Hayesh Hashem B'Kirbeinu Ma'ayin. Chayechem Sha'akelev Ba V'Noishech Eschem. And you're gonna see where I am. Says Rashi, you know what this is like? This is like somebody carrying his son on his shoulder, and the son sees a diamond, he says, Abba, give it to me! And then a second time, and a third time. And then they, right? So he said, Tati, give this to me, give that to me, buy me this, buy me that. And then, the father's carrying the kid, and the kid bumps into somebody. He said, by the way, do you see my father? So the father said, oh, you see? He throws him away. The kelev comes and bites him. You let me know when you need me, right? Same thing with... So where does Amalek come from? Kfuye toiva, being an ingrate. That's why by the Parsha Mikra Bikurim, Rashi says in the word, V'anisa v'amarta, what does Rashi say? Shaloi tehei kafoi toiva. That the purpose of Bikurim is not to be a kafoi toiv. So that's the connection between Amalek and Bikurim. Amalek comes when we say, God, you gave this all to me? Who are you? I don't know who you are anymore. So the mitzvah of Bikurim counteracts that. So let's suggest the following. There are two things there's one thing that Adar and Elul both have in common. You know what Adar is called? You know what Elul is called? They're both called the Achras. They're all both called the end. Parshas Ekev, it says that the eyes of Hashem are in Eretz Yisrael, May Reishis Hashana ad Achras Shana. From the end of the year till the May Reishis ad Achras Shana. From the beginning of the year till the end of the year. We quoted this last week. And the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says on Daf Ches, May Reishis Hashana is Rosh Hashanah, and Achras Shana then is Elul. So Elul is called the Achras. But the truth is that there's another month called the Achras, because what's the first month of the year? It says Dabra Kadas Zalimar, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, Rosh Chadashim, Rishon Hu Lachem, L'Chadshei Hashana. Somehow it got cut off. Rishon Hu Lachem, L'Chadshei Hashana. So that means that if Nisan is the Rishon, then Adar is the Achron. So like this, two things. Amalek comes when we're Kfuye Toiva. You know why we have to learn about Amalek at the end of the year? There are two reasons. Number one, so Victor Miller used to say like this: comes Rosh Hashanah, Rebbeinu Shalom this year, I need money, and I need good health, and I need happiness, and I need success. We come to Hashem with a whole laundry list of requests. Give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. Rebbeinu Shalom said, well, wait a second, I gave you the whole Tafshin Ches. How about before you ask me for Tafshin Tes, how about saying thank you for Tafshin Ches? How's that? Let's try that first. Give me, give me, give me. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu. How about thank you, 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 thank you. And now, how do you have the chutzpah? Now you go to somebody. Imagine somebody comes to you, he says, I'm making a chasana, I'm marrying off my 9th kid. Do me a favor, I need $1 million. Here's $1 million. And also, by the way, I need another $1 million. Well, first, maybe you should say thank you for the first $1 million, then we'll talk about the second $1 million. So Hashem says like this: before you start the new year, you got to get rid of Amalek. Amalek is a symbol of Kafoy Taiva. The way you get rid of Amalek is we're going to learn Kisavai Hakaras HaTayv. We're going to learn Parshas Mishpatim, also Bikurim Hakaras HaTayv. And then then and only then we could begin the new year. But if you're going to be a Kafoy Taiva, don't even bother with the upcoming year. But on a deeper level, Amalek always comes against the Reishis. Amalek is Reishis Goyim Amalek. They're coming to be Oiker, the Reishis. They're coming to be Oiker, Amram, Kahas, Levi, and Moshe. They're coming to take the Milah, which is Reishis Kedush Yisrael, and throw it away. If we're going to start a Reishis, if we're going to start a new year, we have to make sure that we get rid of the thing that is going to antagonize and uproot our Reishis, and that is Amalek. And that's why they're twice a year, we got to get rid of Amalek. It's not a coincidence that both times a year that we remember to destroy Amalek is at the end of the year, because before we could have a new beginning, we have to get rid of that which will try to uproot our new beginning. It says about Amalek, Ashar Karcha Baderach, they come to cool you off. Usually, when does a person get heated up? When is a person excited? When does a person have all their enthusiasm? In the beginning. Amalek is always coming to weaken and cool off the heat and the enthusiasm of the beginning. So before we could start a Chodesh Tishrei, and before we could start a Chodesh Nisan, we have to get rid of Amalek. Amalek is the Reishis. So we learn about the Bikurim, both in Parshas Kisavai and Parshas Mishpatim. We throw Amalek out, and once Amalek is down the drain, now we're ready for the new Reishis, the Reishis of Tishrei, May Reishis Hashana, the Reishis of Nisan, which is Rishon Hu Lachem. So we taka bizoicha to destroy Timcha Es Zecher Amalek Mitachas Hashemayim. So I'll share with you one thing, maybe we'll talk about in the future, How could you have a mitzvah to destroy Amalek? It's so cruel. It's so not nice. It's so politically incorrect to destroy Amalek. So So the answer is, I believe that all we're doing is we're emulating HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Say, how are we emulating HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So amazingly, I realized there's another time in the Torah it says Emcha. Vayar Hashem ki rabba ro'as ha'adam baretz v'chol yetzer machshavos libay rak kol hayoim vayinochem Hashem ki asas ha'adam baretz vayisatzev el libay vayom Hashem emcha es ha'adam asher lakachti. You think it's a coincidence that it says Emcha by HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So all we're doing, we're merely emulating the ways of Hashem. So you say, what does that have to do with Amalek? It says, Ki yetzer machshavos libay rak kol hayoim sefer teves Amalek. Rak kol hayoim sefer teves Amalek. So Rabbi Hashem says Emcha. So we're, what do you expect from us? We're just emulating the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should be zoicha to destroy Amalek mitachas hashamayim and be zoicha to enter Eretz Yisrael and be Mamed HaMelech and build the Beis HaMikdash. Meher v'yameinu. Amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.